I'm Andrew Parker, and so I'm from Hamilton in New Zealand. That's where I am at the moment, though I'm not usually here. So I've been flying for 19 years. So I've done around 2,500 hours. It's pretty good actually compared to a lot of countries. So we're at the highest level at the moment. So we're lowering to level 3 in a week. Yeah, we've only had 12 deaths here and only around 500 active cases. It's under control for the moment. I won't be moving very far for a while. Yeah, so I started the Flying High for Kids project in 2013 here in New Zealand. And so I was flying in Dubai for most of that time, for about 6 or 7 months of the year. So I would save some money and then I would spend it doing this project. So I did that over a 5-year period. And so yeah, I covered 87 countries. So it was all about encouraging kids to follow their dreams. And this one happened a couple of years ago when I was in Tanzania. And it was quite an interesting place because usually I had a lot of events arranged, but in Tanzania I didn't. It was just on the fly. I found a place in northwest Tanzania. It was in the middle of nowhere, and I had parked up at a petrol station because that was the safest place to park. I was the only foreigner in the village, so I drew a lot of attention to myself wherever I was. In Africa, and especially Central Africa, Central East Africa, there's an effect where the wind is quite fast up high, about 40 to 50 kilometers an hour at 1,000 feet or less. And it eventually comes down to the ground, and it can come down really quickly. So time was of the essence. It was quite a tricky place to fly because there was only one road where I knew it would be accessible. I was just looking from Google Earth. So the mapping was not good at all for that area. So I looked at the forecast, I would see what the wind direction was, and I would plan a takeoff site and I would fly to a particular area. So we took off and we were heading straight for this road. And well, you can't call it a road, it was just a track. In that area, they still believe in voodoo and black magic. So I was concerned that I might have some issues when I landed because when I was flying over people were getting really scared and starting to run away. There was one specific moment where there were a whole lot of cows in a pen, and there were a number of guys looking after these cows, and the cows didn't care at all. But these guys looking after them were completely terrified, and they started running into the bush. And I was heading towards a village. There was a village on this road, and I didn't really want to land or fly over this village in case I didn't get a very good welcome. But I managed to find a layer where it took me just a few hundred meters to the left of the village, and I landed on this track. And I put the balloon down with the help of this security guy. And then the next minute, you see, I don't know how many hundred people, 300 people coming down the road from this village, and I didn't know what kind of reception I would be receiving. But as it turned out, they were very curious. We packed up the balloon ourselves, just two of us, even though there were 200 or 300 people there, and so we packed up the balloon. The problem was that I left the truck back at the takeoff site, so there was no crew following, of course. So there was a guy on a motorbike, so I gave him some money, and he took me back, and I had to remember all the tracks to get back to that place because the GPS wasn't really, I had no kind of mapping, no good mapping at least. So I had to remember all the tracks. He took me back to the truck, and then I drove back and found my way back out to this takeoff site, and I left the security guard there with all these 200 or 300 people. So I had no idea if I was going to see my balloon when I got back there. But I arrived back there. Everyone was still very happy, and they helped to load the balloon on, and it all turned out very, very well. But it was the whole thing was all very logistically challenging from start to finish, and it was full of uncertainty. And I think that's the good thing about ballooning, is that it's always an adventure. You don't know what you're going to expect. But there was another time in Guyana It was all rice fields. It was the rice paddies about the place. Found a farm. The farmers were really friendly, in fact. Even at 10 o'clock at night, they were out on their tractor leveling the ground. So we stayed there overnight. So I stayed in the truck, and then I heard rain at midnight, and I thought, oh, this is going to be bad in the morning. And sure enough, I got up the next morning, and it was just mud everywhere. It was just that field that they just made level was all mud. And so we got some pallets. We put these pallets down, and we put the basket on top of the pallets, and then I had a big tarpaulin, and I put the tarpaulin out, and I put the envelope on the tarpaulin. And so it worked out very, very well. So I took off from there, and I had no idea where I was going to land. I was hoping to get to there was one road where I'd been the day before, and I saw that there was probably 100 by 100 meters where I could land, and it was dry. And so it's just mud underneath, basically. So I called the farmer and I said, we need a tractor. The truck is not going to get in there for sure. So we're going to need a tractor. I saw a spot which looked dry. It was just a raised bit of land. So I aimed for this one spot, and I got probably 3 meters away from it, and just put it down just 3 meters to the side of this one dry spot, and then we just lifted it up to this dry area. And then the boy that I was with, he called his I think it was his uncle, but he said there was a specific bridge that we'd landed close to, and so they turned up about 45 minutes later. Maybe we packed up the balloon. It was pretty wet, so we loaded it up onto this tractor, and when we're going back, the ground, these tracks were so uneven, and there were streams on each side, and the trailer of the tractor was going up and down like that, and the basket, it wasn't tied down to the trailer at all, and it was sliding across. So here I am trying to pull the basket from going over the edge and into the stream, and saving myself as well, because I was going to end up with it. So it was quite a struggle for quite a long time, and we finally got out. And yeah, it was pretty boggy to say the least. And we got out, and it was all okay. Yeah, good fun. And probably one of the nicest retrievals was in Tajikistan. We took off from a stadium, and this was in cooperation with UNICEF Tajikistan. We filled up half a stadium of kids. There were 5,000 kids, and so it was a big event. And so there was like dancing and the kids showing off their talent. So there was art and all sorts of sports and everything. So it was a really big event that we created for this balloon flight, because it was the first official flight of a balloon in Tajikistan.
Right.
And so there were 12 schools around the stadium. So the police, they closed all of the roads around the stadium, and all the kids walked to the stadium, all these 12 schools. And we took off after this whole performance. And we flew up, and Afghanistan was 20 kilometers away. And at that time, things were pretty active in Afghanistan. When I came back down and flew over another school, and all the kids came out of the school and were waving, and as we were going quite slowly, and there were more and more kids coming out from houses, and all these kids were screaming and yelling and coming down the road. And as we were coming into land, we were just mobbed by kids coming from every direction. So, and it was such good fun, so there was a whole lot of people coming from everywhere, and we put the balloon down, and we had lots and lots of people to help pack the balloon. But it was just a nice community event, and that place ended up, that was where there was a war, the Tajikistan war, but it had started in that village. So it was kind of a nice thing that I could land in that particular village and have this great community event. So it was a good feeling. That's a nice thing about ballooning, is that you never know what's going to happen at the end. There are a lot of good people in the world that don't believe everything that they say in the news or the propaganda. So I had a lot of complications along the way, and I was always able to get out of it through the help of a lot of kind and caring people.